there's some shit to talk about with it, but let me, The Witcher, Season 2. Now, this thing dropped, I want to say the 19th, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I watched it pretty much right away.
Yeah.
But I have since gone back and rewatched it.
You're wearing your medallion.
I'm wearing the medallion. I also went back before the season dropped and watched our old videos. And we really reamed Season 1 for as often as we leveled out the qualifiers of we do like this. I mean, it is okay.
She took a dig at us too.
She took a little bit of a dig.
I totally think that Jasker's tirade was a direct comment to people like us.
That was exactly what it was. It was specifically that. But I also get the sense that she I'm gonna be a completely delusional lunatic here. I think she watched our videos. I think she listened to some of our criticism and addressed them a little bit, just a little bit. But what's your overall vibe on Season 2?
Well, I finished it last night.
Okay.
I have to say, I liked it in the same way that I like Season 1. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I like The Witcher. And after watching it, I kind of want to play the game again. I like being in that world. It bums me out that it's over, so I liked it. But man, I just some of the choices they make in this show are utterly puzzling to me. I don't know if it's just unbelievably hard to adapt, or if there's just different factions within the organization that want different things out of the show, or if they're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. I don't know what it is. Or a square peg into a round hole. I guess a round peg would go into a square hole. But
depending on the size of the square hole.
That's true. I had some issues with the show, and especially the way it ended. At one point at the end, I'm like watching the final episode. I was like, "Holy shit, man! We've got 20 minutes left in this show, and we're fucking around in this dream of this." You know what I mean? I was like, "What?" We're dancing around. What is going on?
Right. Before we jump to the very end, this is gonna be all spoiler alerts. But yeah, anybody watching this probably is aware of that at this point. But yeah, spoiler alerts. We're gonna spoil the shit out of everything. But before we jump to the last episode, I do want to go through the episodes briefly. But I also just want to get your general sense of: do you think it's better than Season 1?
It's better than Season 1. Because it has essentially a linear through line.
Yeah.
So they got in over their head in season. I don't care what Jasker says. You know, they were in over their head and from a staging and writing standpoint in Season 1. And it's got a linear through line, which helps. But, I mean, it just fails in some of the most basic ways of setting up a story in certain elements where half that time Aaron and I are watching it, and I've played the games. I know about the world. I'm like, I have no idea what's happening.
Well, okay,
I have no idea what's going on right now.
So that's. I mean, it's interesting because you've never read the books.
No,
and I have read the books, so I know that the season deviates wildly from the books.
Well, it seems like it has nothing to do with the books. It seems like they were just trying to get to Witcher 3.
It virtually is unrelated to what we know of the books. Like, a lot of stuff was changed. And I think, that could be a point of contention for people that were expecting a closer adaptation of the books. But I was kind of looking at it like, why? Why did they make the decision to deviate so wildly from the story of the books and the way that they did? Like, it doesn't feel, and you were talking about whether or not there was any kind of desire within the production studios on what they wanted to see from it, or how difficult adapting the books would be. I think a part of it is that last part. I think that I've always said that the short stories were better than the novels. And I think that my opinion of that is kind of being validated by the fact that it seems like the showrunner has conceded that there isn't enough narrative meat on the bones of the story to be able to do like a more direct adaptation and make it still be compelling on like an episode to episode basis. Like the book is kind of drawn, the novels are kind of drawn out a little bit. There's not a whole lot of spice going on, like in the in between moments. Like you have your big points, and the show. If you watch season 2, knowing what the big plot points are that they're trying to get to, you'll see that they get to where they eventually need the story to get to for the characters. They just get there in a completely different way. It's definitely TV writing. Like they're writing it for making sure that this episode has this amount of drama and this amount of of twists and turns and crazy unexpected things that occur. And some of it makes sense. A lot of it's just kind of weird and left field. A lot of it just kind of makes it seem like it's almost like jazz. Like they're just kind of like...
No. It very much, totally. It was like Witcher jazz. It was like they had some free association. Like we got the world, we got set up. We're just gonna vibe, baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't expect... The problem is that it seems to me that they were, after season 1, maybe, the guys at Netflix were like, guys, what we're looking for is Game of Thrones with The Witcher. Yeah. So go in and make that. And so they're really kind of trying to come up with a Game of Thrones. It seemed like they were trying to do a Game of Thrones style deal, with this kind of long arc, working to this, But the problem is that the show... gives you the best episode is episode 2, and by best,
you thought that was the best one,
dude. Yes, by a long shot. The one where they go to the thing and the guy's in there and the guy is cursed. Like to me, that's what the whole show should just be.
Wait, the guy is
it's got Tormund in it.
That's episode 1.
All right, is that episode 1?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's the best episode.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying too. No, 1 was the best episode.
Yeah. The one with Tormund is what the show should have been.
Well, let's start talking about that one because I think
that shows you what works.
Well, that is, and one of the biggest points that I made in our last review, was that we thought that the Striga episode should have been the first episode of season 1.
Yeah, because I don't remember season 1 that great, but yeah, I mean, this is my complaint for season 1 too. They didn't fix it. I thought
they did fix it because I thought that they did lead with the best episode.
No. I mean, no. My point is that the entire season should have been stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Well,
or at least more stuff like that. Because in that one episode, you get what makes The Witcher cool. All of it. You know what I mean? They show up in the town, everyone's dead.
But that was something that was never going to happen. Like I said last time, our best bet, our best chance at getting the kind of Witcher show that you want would have been the first season, would have been the adaptations of those short stories. Because those short stories give you the monster of the week kind of format that you want from this. Like, you want Geralt to show up, you want there to be a mystery, you want there to be Witcher shit happening, investigations, and figuring out the curses and what that, and then action set pieces, awesome set pieces in between, and then a moment of
because the show is called The Witcher. It's not called the series show, and it's certainly not called the Yennefer show.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing, though. It's like, I know that it's called The Witcher, but more of The Witcher, the more of The Witcher proper is about Ciri than it is about Geralt and Yennefer. Yeah, well, certainly more than it's.
I didn't read the books. I played the games, and Ciri was in the games, but it was mainly about Geralt Geralt, and it was fucking awesome. You know what I mean? And in the episodes that are mainly about Geralt, it's great. I like Ciri in the show, but it's just like we spend a lot of time fucking around. There's just a lot of fucking around going on in the show, and there's just a lot of wacky shit, basic shit. Like I have no fucking clue where anything is in the fucking world. I know that
the geography is
it's completely fucked.
Very confusing.
You know what I mean? And Game of Thrones has already showed how you do it, and so did Lord of the Rings. You show the map at the beginning so everyone fucking knows what they're talking about. And literally, the time it takes. So in the final episode, Yennefer, they're in Sintra, right? And they're getting an argument.
All right, let's stop.
And they show up at Kaer Morhen, and they're still in the same argument. Literally,
we're all right, we're jumping to the very end again. Let's just...
it happens lots of times. It's not just there, but that's the most comical example, because it's like they start an argument and then they ride for what probably is actually days or maybe half a month to get to Kaer Morhen from Sintra. Yeah, you know what I mean? And they're still talking about the exact same thing in the exact same part we left off when they left Sintra.
Yeah, you don't get any kind of sense of geography or distance or anything at any point in the show.
People just savaged Game of Thrones for that. that shit. And Game of Thrones did not offend anywhere near to this degree.
See, that's the thing. Game of Thrones, the problem with Game of Thrones is they started off doing it right, and then they witchified it by the end of the season or the series.
Yeah, but it's still, even their witchification of it was still way more believable than that shit.
I don't think it was. I just think it definitely wasn't by the end of it. But it's just that, you had the first season of Game of Thrones where, like, traveling was most of the show, and a lot of things developed within those travels. You had the king going to the north, and Ed going to the south, and then Rob in season 2, Rob is marching south, and he's like, his armies are battling, and it's all about, and you see the geography at the start of every show.
Yeah.
You see all of that. So, like, you get a much better sense of what the terrain of the world looks like and how people traverse it.
Yeah.
And, with
basic
The Witcher,
shit.
Well, with The Witcher, in any capacity, not really until Witcher 3, and even then, really just kind of only by the virtue of the fact that it's an open world game, is any of that shit ever, like, part of the point.
Well, what's dumb is that, in my opinion, is that it's a big part of what's going on. They keep talking about the north, the south, all these kingdoms, Foltest over here, and the guy from Dany over here.
I will take back a little bit of what I just said. I just said it wasn't ever really the point. That's not entirely true. It is the point in the sense that a big part of The Witcher is, the characters are largely separated. And a lot of it is Geralt looking for Ciri. That's a big part of the Witcher novels. And it is the main part of The Witcher 3, at least. So, like, there is a component there where it's like Geralt is a tracker. He's oftentimes hired to be a tracker. Tracking people through the continent is his thing. So, in that sense, yes, it would pay off better if the stories were more focused on Geralt being Geralt, to have a better sense of geography. But I don't really think that's not the greatest offense of this season, in my opinion. Like, I have other issues, and like the geography thing, was pretty silly by the end. That's
low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
That's low-hanging fruit. That's not the greatest offense of the series, but that is low-hanging fruit in a sense that where by the end of it, you're kind of like, there's that, people complained about that in Game of Thrones where it's just like, well, they got there super fast, or they got there, it's like the big complaint was when they rode the dragons to the north and then rode back in the same day. You know what I mean? And it's like, I did the math based on...
my big complaint was Gendry hoofing it on foot to Castle, or whatever, Castle Black. That was the only real thing I thought was weird. Everything else I was perfectly fine with.
Yeah, I did the math on them flying up way up to beyond the wall and the dragons, using how fast they thought a pterodactyl flew, and it wasn't that far off. Nothing compared to what was going on in The Witcher.
But we don't. The thing is, you say that, but we don't really know what the geography of The Witcher is. Like, Sintra could be central to Kaer Morhen could be, Austin to Georgetown, for all we know.
Yeah, well, there's mountains.
Yeah, well, there might be mountains that far north or that close by.
If there were mountains in Georgetown, we would not be in Sintra.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? There would be mountains because mountains are big. You know what I mean? They take up a lot of space.
Well, I mean, we didn't exactly get a solid panoramic view of Sintra. Like, it's not like we had a map of Sintra. We saw.
No, we didn't have any map at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
My point is that
there is like you're right, but I think that the absence of the geography is like, your complaint is the absence of geography, but I think the absence of the geography is so tremendous that it ends up kind of coming back around on itself on not mattering that much. Like, there isn't really any point. Like, the only point where geography, I think, is a little bit problematic in terms of storytelling is Sodden. Because I don't really know, because the Battle of Sodden is this huge important event. And I don't really know what it means in relation to, like, Nilfgaard taking the north. Like, they're saying it's the most important thing.
Well, it was a bottleneck, right? They had to get through this bottleneck to get to the north.
But even in season 1, I didn't understand what that meant. And even in season 2, like, they never really expand upon it to make it make more sense. So Sodden is still like a mystery to me. Like, what does it look like?
At the very, very end, there's a bunch of other kings. They're having this secret meeting. I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? You know what I mean?
Oh, they allude to those guys a lot, though, throughout Like there were some mentions of him in season 1. I mean, it's just the kings of the Northern Realm.
Yeah, but I didn't see the Redanian guy there.
He was there. Wait, Redanian guy.
The guy that looks like
Vizimir.
Alfie Al. No, or is
Yeah, that's Vizimir.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's the guy? What's the guy who's what the older Witcher guy? What's that guy's name?
The older Witcher guy?
Yeah, you know,
Vesemir.
Are you fucking serious? There's a Vizimir and a Vesemir.
Vizimir and Vesemir.
Oh my god.
Vizimir is the king of Vizima, and Vesemir.
Of where?
Vizima.
Vizima.
Yes.
At no point did Redania is what I was talking about. The guy that what's his face?
Actually, Vizima might be in Redania. I can't remember. I'm going based off a game off of Witcher 1. Since I've been playing Witcher 1 extensively. So and Witcher 1 takes place in Vizima. Okay, Vizima is Temeria. Okay, so that's full test territory.
Yeah, and full test I know that guy, but because I see what he looks like, and he was in Witcher 1.
Yeah, he was in season 1.
Yeah, or season 1. Yeah, so it's the Redanian guy looks like Alfie Allen. He kind of looks like. But
I believe his name is Vizimir.
That's crazy. I mean, it makes sense because at one point someone says, "We'll be working for Vesemir," and they said it like Vesemir, and I was like, we're going to be working for the King of the Witchers? I'm fucking lost, dude. You know what I mean? It's like, again...
So, yeah.
There were things about this. They're trying to create a complicated narrative with lots of places, and they're not doing you much of a primer. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's moving in a sense, and they're just... It's just kind of stuff it's just a bunch of stuff that happens. That's what Erin described it as. She was like, watching this show is like, you just don't think too much about it because nothing makes any sense, and there's not much of a logical through line from thing to point A to point B. It's just a bunch of stuff that happens, and you're either just on board or you're not. It's like the roller coaster's going this way. You know what I mean?
I think it's not like a lot of that stuff wasn't set up. Like season 1 spent a lot of time with the sorcerers, the Brotherhood. And they talked about their relation to the various kings and queen. And they talked about, assigning the sorcerers out and all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't like it came out of nowhere. There was some discussion of it. Season 1 was probably not the place to do that because that was such a convoluted story anyways. Like there was just a lot going on. And without having any firm establishment of like what the geography of the world looks like and where the kings actually reside and shit, like it makes it hard to like when the characters all show up. Like when I knew it was happening, I knew that it was the kings of the Northern Realm, but by the time, if somebody who isn't as steeped in Witcher lore as I am, when by the time that shit shows up for them, that I can see where it's like, hey, where'd all these guys come from?
Well, I mean, you can do the math and be like, these are obviously kings of the other realms, but you don't know. There seemed a lot of kings. You know what I mean? It's like, so like I think an excellent example of this thing done right with a fairly new property is the Dragon Prince, that cartoon, because it starts off with a primer on what's going on in the world. Just kind of in the same way Game of Thrones does, but Game of Thrones doesn't spell it out. This actually spells it out. Kind of the way Witcher 3, the game, does. It gives you a little primer of what the fuck's happening, even though, you're completely lost if you haven't played the first 2 games. That's one of the reasons that Witcher 3 is such a high barrier of entry. You're just like, what the fuck is going on?
That's actually the opposite of my experience. Like, I got into Witcher 3 super easy. Like, and having, like, I beat Witcher 2, and I'm in the middle of Witcher 1, and you can honestly play Witcher 3 without because like it doesn't really have any relation to any of them.
You texted me, you were like, playing Witcher 3, if I have to go on one more stupid fetch quest, I'm quitting this game. And I was like, if you play it up to the Bloody Baron thing and you still want to quit, then quit. But if you play it up to the Bloody Baron
I don't think that was me, man.
It was definitely you.
No, my problem wasn't fetch quest. My problem was that like I sucked. I sucked. I kept getting hit.
This text. I wonder if I've got it there from so long ago.
That was a long ass time ago. I remember my problem being with like every time Geralt got hit, half of his health disappeared, and I wasn't used to the combat control, so because it was delayed. Like every time you hit an attack button, it took a little bit longer than I would have normally expected for him to actually hit his enemy. And dodging is a big component in that game, and I never dodge in games. I'm not a tactical gamer. I'm a tank. and you can't do that in Witcher 3. So
certainly.
my getting used to that style of play at first was incredibly frustrating, and that was my problem. I was like, God damn it, dude! Like every time I come across like a fucking dog or something, I'm running for my life, shoving apples down my throat. This sucks. But eventually I fucking dominated that game. I destroyed it on Nightmare mode without dying once.
I think I actually played it on Nightmare mode, although I didn't realize it. I think Zane was playing it on Nightmare mode, and I just picked up his game. And because I got some award for playing it on Nightmare mode.
Are you actually going to try to scroll back text?
I am.
For like
because I know for a fact that you texted
ago?
me that. It's probably 4 years ago. I'm back to July at this point.
Oh, you're gonna crash. You're gonna crash your phone. That's what's gonna happen. Because like you're gonna load up so much that your phone's gonna be like, I can't handle this anymore. But I mean, I'm pretty positive that my issue with that game wasn't fetch quests.
You weren't so down with that game at first, and I was because I told you like you're the first person I tell most people is like. There's a barrier for entry with this game. You just got to get over the hump, and once you get over the hump, it's the best. But until you get over the hump, you're just like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean?
I distinctly remember being mad about the difficulty in what I just described. I don't think there was a whole lot of fetch quests going on at the start of the game.
Well, they weren't fetch quests. It was more like, go do this to help this guy. Go do this to help that guy. You want to learn about so-and-so? Go over here and kill this griffin. It was like it was like work. It was like having a job. And that's why I quit. I was like, fuck this. And I got shit to do in real life. I'm going to go get this guy's thing and bring it over here and go talk to this guy. It just wasn't like, the story wasn't, at that point, they hadn't fished you in enough. I guess they're thinking that your experience playing the previous games or knowing the story with Yennefer and shit would be enough to make you be like, oh yeah, I love this game. I want to keep playing it.
Yeah, Yennefer wasn't in the first two games at all. Neither was Ciri.
Really?
Yeah, not at all. So that's why I was saying, like, Witcher 3 you can play that game brand new and, without playing either of the other ones.
The entire game talks about Yennefer and all this shit in the past tense and all that.
Because all of that is referencing the books.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't let me go back any farther than that.
Yeah.
I went back to December of 2019, but it's not far enough.
It's like, fuck you, dude. Wait, why'd you bring her page up? Lauren Schmidt?
Oh, because I wanted to see what else she had done. You know what I mean? I wanted to see what else she had worked on.
Umbrella Academy, The Defenders, Daredevil, Power, Do No Harm, Parenthood, Private Practice, Drive, TV show, not that movie, Whatever Justice Is, and then The West Wing. So she was a writer on all of those, executive producer on most of those, and whatever other means on I guess story editor, researcher, and story editor on the first three. So, I mean, she's been writing for TV for a long-ass time.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
It's adopting these books is tough. Like, it's a tough adaptation because it's okay. So this season still tries to do a little bit of what the first season did, and sprinkling in some of the short stories with the novelizations. And I think it's a little bit more successful in that regard. But it also creates just a bunch of shit whole cloth. Like, nothing to do with the games or the books, just its own version of, whatever they believe the Witcher world to be. And I think a lot of the shortcomings that I see in this season come from that attempt. But I do want to talk about this first episode, A Grain of Truth, because I do think that this was the best episode. I think it started off the way that we wanted the first season to start off. Yeah. Like, it introduces you to Geralt. Like, there a lot of the critiques that we had was like a lot of shit was mysterious. Like, his usage of signs. They didn't like in the first episode of the first season. Like, the first time he uses a sign is when he tries to use Axie and it fails. We talked about that. Like, he didn't really know what it was or how it was supposed to work and all that sort of stuff. They don't really explain where Witchers come from, or they don't explain the Witcher magic system or anything like that. And all that stuff was just mysterious. But in this one, they did do a little bit of a better job. Like, Ciri and Geralt are traveling, and they come across dismembered bodies and shit, and Roach starts freaking out, and he actually does the Axie hand symbol from the game. And he waves it across Roach's face, and then he actually has somebody to explain it to in that scene with Siri.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit of understanding there, like, oh, okay, Witcher signs, Axie, it's a calming sign as he describes it, and you don't really go into it anymore. They go into a town, and they know his Witcher senses, he notices it's quiet, there's not even barking dogs, something's wrong, so they keep going. He knows that there's a guy nearby, and they can crash at his place. And this story, the short story,
which is a little weird. I mean, I that was one of the first things I was like, why didn't they just go to his place? If he knows somebody nearby, it's like, let's go to this random town. Or I've got a friend that lives right up the road. I'm going to go to the town and not go to my friend's house that's right down the road. But whatever. I was willing to let that go. I just thought it was a little strange that it was like, I know a friend that lives right down the road. Let's just go there instead. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, Geralt's not really a super sociable person, so it was probably just one of those things where it's like, I know the guy, but I'm not going to go crash at his crib unless I absolutely have to. So he goes over there, and this short story in the book is actually kind of a grim adaptation of Beauty and the Beast, right? And
sure,
they made some narrative changes that kind of dilutes that adaptation. I don't think it's detrimental to the story, but it does kind of bum me out that you don't really get the sense of what was really going on with Nevelin's relationship with Verena. So in the books, what that whole situation was, Geralt and Nevelin weren't friends. Geralt just happens to stumble across the house, and there are blue roses, and
that makes fucking perfect sense.
Yeah,
it makes a lot more sense than him having a friend. He just the only guy in town who's alive. Yeah. He ends up there because everyone else is dead. Makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
and it's a lot cooler, and it's but I guess they don't have the history thing.
Well, it's so he meets Nevelin. I think I haven't read the story in a while. And he's cursed and whatnot, and he realizes he's cursed. There's a local folklore that he's kind of preying upon, and he's not like an outwardly evil dude or anything like that. He's kind of similar to how he is in the show, but he's using this local folklore, like the idea that because he's trying to find a way to cure his curse, and he believes that a kiss from a maiden will cure him and whatnot. So he's like convincing merchants. If their daughters so choose to stay, to leave their daughters with him, and he treats them nicely and all that sort of stuff, and if the curse isn't lifted, then he sends them on their way. So merchants from all over the place, come by and leave their daughters with them and shit like that. It's a little weird, but Geralt doesn't really think too much of it. Like he's just like, whatever, dude, and he splits. And then he's on the road with Roach, and Roach is acting weird. And it's because Roach is acting weird that Geralt starts like examining clues around the forest and realizes, oh shit, there's a Bruxa around here somewhere. So then he realizes like something's going weird with the mansion. He goes back to the mansion, and that's when he has the confrontation with Verena, who is way more malevolent in the show than she is in like the.
Oh really?
Yeah, or way more malevolent in the book than in the show.
In the show, she's. She's obviously killing people in the town. She's got to go, but it's not. You almost kind of feel bad for her. It's not.
Yeah. So it kind of plays out generally the same way. The only really big consequential change that they made to the story is that at the end of the episode, you find out that the cause of Nevelin's curse is that he raped a priestess.
Yeah.
And Geralt and Ciri turn away from him, and in the books, Geralt learns that about him pretty much right off the bat, and I guess the decision was made, like, we can't have Geralt still be pals with this guy after he
cancel culture rears its ugly head. Netflix has gone woke.
Whoa, one woke season. So they wokeified that story a bit, but I still thought it was cool. So Tormund, I thought did a great job.
He was great.
Like I think he was probably the performance of the season. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
So like I absolutely loved how he portrayed Nevelin and like the jovial nature, and like you could really see like the CGI on the face was awesome because you could see a lot of like emotion.
He did a really good job. I don't know if it was totally CGI.
I think it was like a mix,
or if his like from here to here was makeup, and then they just made his mouth. They did a good job.
They did a really great job.
It's weird. You can tell the things they spent the money on in this season because there's some of the like Some of the overhead shots of towns and castles looked rough. Like video game level. But dude, that basilisk, the main basilisk, the very end of the season when he fights, that thing looked fantastic.
So the show looks great. It looks way better than it did in season 1. And they showed a lot of that off in this first episode. I thought all the shots in the first episode looked really good.
It looks good. It's still, I mean, like, to me, Game of Thrones is the gold standard of high fantasy.
I didn't think it looked too far off from gold.
There were a lot of green screen like stuff. It was obvious they were indoors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was a studio with a green screen, especially some Kaer Morhen stuff. And I was like, God, guys. You know, go outside. Just go outside and build a green screen. You know what I mean? It's like Game of Thrones was good about, like, if they would use a green screen, but they'd actually go, like, out in the wilderness and have the green screen up and then paint it in so everyone had the real natural light. And, you know, but it wasn't that big of a deal. But there were several shots. I was like, if this was Game of Thrones, this shit would be outside. You know what I mean?
I never got that sense from this. Like, I didn't. Like
I'd probably be a little more zoned into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, maybe. I got that sense for certain in the first season, but I think that this season was generally put together a lot better, technically speaking. So if there were moments like that, I probably just didn't think too much of it.
Yeah, I just remember
like there was nothing. I'll just put it this way: there was nothing that glaringly jumped out at me as like that's bad. Like maybe we could talk about this in the future, but the Matrix movie, the new one, Matrix Resurrected, that movie is littered with fucking terrible visual effects.
Really?
Like some of the worst I've seen since like CW shows.
Wow.
And it blew my mind. I was like, what the fuck? Why does it look this bad? But like if something is that visually awful, it'll jump out at you. And I just didn't get that sense that there was anything that was visually awful in this season.
No, I know. There was nothing
not like that dragon
from last season. That dragon was rough.
That was a rough fucking dragon.
But yeah, if you want to know the difference in like the budget level in CGI, compare the dragon from season 1 to the in Basilisk in season 2, because that thing looked amazing. You know what I mean? And you know, but there were. I remember just like there was an episode of Game of Thrones. I can't remember which one. It was one where Jon Snow is on the wall and he's talking to Aemon Targaryen, right?
Yeah.
And they're outside, like on a thing overlooking the thing. And I was looking, I was like, damn. I mean, there was all this bird shit and all this. I was like, that is a fucking detailed ass set. It was just super real looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way I was just like, I mean, I feel like I'm there. This is not the kind of you don't see this kind of stuff on TV shows that much, you know. And this is, you know, things have gotten a lot different since then as prestige TV is moved forward, and these things have the budgets of of movies and stuff now. But yeah, I'm remembering that, and there was one particular scene in The Witcher in Kaer Morhen where it was, to me, it felt really, you know, blue screened or green screened, and I was like, I just, that scene jumped to mind, you know. But
wait, which one? I'm sorry.
The one scene? From Game of Thrones as like a high watermark.
Oh, I meant like which one?
It was the first time that he is practicing in Kaer Morhen on the beams, right? And then he gets down and Vesemir comes out.
Yeah.
And he and Vesemir are talking. And Vesemir's hair isn't moving at all. And his hair is moving just a little bit. But I'm like, you're outside in the fucking mountains, dude. Yeah. It would be blowing a lot. Like, it'd be really obvious you were outside. And and that's, but I mean, Game of Thrones had its own offenses. Like when they were on the fucking dragons and their hair is not really blowing, it's like, dude, you know, it would be, if you were riding a dragon going that fast, it would be like, you know,
yeah.
You know? But in general, the show looked better than season 1. The effects were better. It was obvious that they had gotten more. They had better resources. You know?
So the cool thing about this first episode was you did get to see Geralt do Witcher shit. Like,
yeah,
he investigated he had a suspicion about what was going on in the house. He had that cool scene with Nevelyn where, you know, they're throwing knives.
That was awesome.
And, you know, you knew right off the bat that those were rigged knives, right? Yeah. And you knew Geralt knew, but he played along with it. You know, he was just kind of trying to draw Nevelyn into a more of a comfort zone. Didn't really work. He starts examining the house. He goes out on Roach and starts examining the city. and realizes, that they're dealing with the Bruxa. He goes back, like it's all this sort of stuff. He's drinking his potion,
and it was kind of scary. There were horror elements. That
yeah,
I thought
like
were cool.
when the Bruxa first appeared, she walked through the wall.
Oh, it was great.
It was pretty creepy.
Yeah, it was great, and I was like, okay. You know what I mean? This whole season is going to be. Because the thing is, I'm not opposed to a long arc in the show. I just think they could have gotten rid of some of the kind of like hemming and hawing B-plot stuff. You know what I mean? And focused more on what makes the show the most entertaining, which is Geralt being a Witcher and doing Witcher shit, and then woven in some of the long arc stuff. You know what I mean? Here and there. And that would have allowed them to not have so much ground to cover, you know what I mean? From a long arc standpoint. They could have just focused on the stuff and hit the big points where it was like, oh, cool, or whatever. It just kind of seemed, too, that maybe the thing came down to like, most people know about Witcher 3, so we need to start working some Witcher 3 stuff into the show.
Yeah, in the middle of the season, or maybe a little bit towards the middle of the season, is when you start seeing them blend in a bunch of shit that like you start so very early on you get Yennefer's arc where she lost her magic and she's trying to figure out how to get it back.
Is that from the books?
Kind of. I think it manifests in a different way. I think Fringilla is the one that like takes her magic or blinds her or something like that. But this is another. I'll finish explaining. I'll finish setting this up, and then I'll give you my theory on what's going on with the general story. So you get that story, you get that side story, or that other arc. Then you get. I don't know why they felt the need to do it, but they brought back the Black Elf. I forget his name. Dara or something like that. Yeah. They made him a spy for Dijkstra, and they have that whole story thing going on. They intertwined him with the story arc about Filavandrel and Fringilla, or Francesca rather, the elven mage.
Do you see Francesca in The Witcher 3?
I think she shows up at the very end, actually. I think that that the Emperor has her imprisoned on one of his boats, and you have to go...
Is that Francesca?
I think that's Francesca.
Oh.
Yeah, I believe so.
And Fringilla is the one that's in prison, right? And you go and you basically murder her. You kill her, mercy killing her?
That's Sheila de Tanzerville that you mercy kill.
Oh, okay.
I don't think she showed up in the show.
Oh, okay.
I think Fringilla's
in the game though. I think
she's the other one, the one that doesn't get mercy killed in the prison, the one you actually help escape. I believe so. I can't quite remember. I've always been a little confused by the
blind.
That's Philippa. Philippa Eilhart.
Is that the main woman that's in charge of everything? Who is she in the show? Is she in the show yet?
Spoiler alert! She was the owl.
Oh, that shows up at the end?
Yeah.
That's right, because she turns into an owl in the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as soon as that owl popped up, I was like...
I knew when it turned into a witch, at the very end, I was like, that's someone from the game. This is familiar. But it's been a while. I mean, I played that game in 2015 or 2016. So, it's been a while. But yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I just, like...
So there's a lot of stories going on there, in addition to, Ciri's story and, Geralt and Yennefer having their story of reconciliation of sorts, and Jaskier with his story of sorts going on. And I think a part of what makes it just a little bit more manageable than season 1 is that all of the characters spend a little bit more time together. So you do get scenes of Geralt and Jaskier. You do get scenes of Yennefer and Geralt and Ciri. So it's not quite as disparate as it was in season 1, where they were all just kind of in their own world.
Well, that in season 1, like one episode would be from like 40 years before the next episode, and everyone looks the same. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? And there might have even been cuts in the same episode between timelines.
Yeah,
I can't remember, but it's like because Geralt always looks the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't get any older or younger. So, that just makes it really, really difficult. Yeah, I mean...
Which is weird. Like, you know what they should do? What they should have done from season 1 to season 2 is they should have given him at least one of his facial scars. Like, Geralt is scarred the fuck up.
Yeah,
like,
especially in the game.
Yeah, like, even in the books they describe him being scarred up. Like, all the Witchers are scarred up. It's a consequence of fighting monsters, you know?
Yeah.
So
but it's funny, all the other Witchers are scarred up except for Geralt.
Like,
he's the star. We can't have him be scarred up.
I don't recall a scar on Lambert.
And Ciri gets a scar, doesn't she?
Ciri gets a scar in the game. Yeah. She gets one at some point. It's a mysterious. I don't know if it's from the book. It must have been some point. Because Dandelion remarks on it, I think.
But the thing is that like it's weird because the show, spoiler alert, leans pretty hard. Like it seems like the show ends and just sets up Witcher 3. Like if you stop the show, except for what Yennefer's doing, but it's like Amir is in Sintra. They're remodeling the shit, just like the set looks very similar to the way it was in the last shot than it is to when you're walking around in there. I don't know if you're actually in Nilfgaard in the game. I don't know where you start in the game.
You're in Vizima.
Vizima? Okay, yeah. But it's similar. It looks the same. And then the Wild Hunt is looking for Ciri. They're going around. They've already been seen in the game in the show. And the thing is that what's crazy about the game is the game takes place like 20 years or 15 years after the stuff in the where they ended in season 1, right? It's like they just kind of like moved it all forward because it's like we're gonna want to see some Wild Hunt stuff because everyone knows what that is. It just seemed like it was like purposeful to make it where people like things about that, like everyone who played The Witcher could like glob onto.
So there's a number of game Easter eggs in the show. Like some of them are Easter eggs and some of them are directly tying into the game stuff. Like the Wild Hunt is a concept that exists in the books as well. I don't think they play as super prominently in the books as they do in the game. So I think that having them be as prominent in the show kind of alludes to like the game story arc.
It totally does because they go to another world and the Wild Hunt are there and they're like, I think those are elves from another world, and that's what the guy tells her. The leader is like, Cirilla, blah blah blah. Join us. We are the elder. You are our blood or whatever. Yeah. It's basically just the shit from the game. And then they go, where'd you guys go? It's like, I don't know, but they're coming for serious. Okay, well, we're pretty much just booted right into Wild Hunt now at this point.
Yeah. So there is that. Some of the signage is like right out of the game. Like I said, Axii was the way that Geralt does it in Witcher 3. There was a lot of great sign usage in this season. Someone got a note, and they're just tossing signs left or right. There's a lot more magic. I like the way that it looked when the Bruxa did her scream. I like how Geralt used Ard to knock her ass through the window. Like that was really cool.
Dude, that was great. And I loved how Geralt used Ard in season 1 when he like blew he was on the back and blew the thing up in the air. Up. That was great. I just like that's the thing. I just in some ways I kind of felt like it was
Didn't
a missed
he do that
opportunity,
with? There was I can't remember if it was the episode where he was fighting Reince and his dudes. Someone was on top of him and he arded him up and then like impaled him on the sword.
That was cool.
That was cool. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I just kind of feel like there was stuff in the show that I could have done without, and stuff in this show that I could have used a lot more of.
Yeah.
And it's weird when I think of like all the stuff with the Witch in the Woods seemed nuts to me.
This is my theory. I think that the showrunner was trying her hardest to come up with a story arc for season 2 that was basically as compelling and as clever as Heart of Stone, because she failed. Deathless Mother doesn't exist in the book.
Yeah,
that's something that's totally concocted for the show. And the Deathless Mother had all the same vibes as Gaunter O'Dim. It was all like, I can give you what you want, but it's not quite like it's not like a fair trade. It was like that sort of thing. And then like it was the whole Geralt trying to figure out what's going on here. Like he went to the monolith that Ciri destroyed. He's doing the whole investigation. He started off like he was investigating. Like there's a trail, a very Witcher side story kind of trail that leads to all of it. Like Eskel, and spoiler alert for those who like Eskel, like even though his character was kind of not the same as it was in the book, or certainly not the same as in the game, Eskel dies like pretty much right away.
Yeah.
He's infected by a Leshen. And
he did a good job. I will say this: the guy wasn't in the show very long, but he did a good job of being a lot different when you see him in flashback before he was infected by the lashing. You're like, oh, is that how he was before? He looked like a different guy almost. You know, everything about him was so different. And you're like, wow, he only had a second in the show, but he was good.
Yeah,
because
that was a great flashback moment too.
Yeah, he embodied that really well. But you can continue your story, but the Deathless Mother stuff, I just felt was like they were just rolling it as they were going, man. I was just like, she just kind of seemed to fit whatever the moment needed. You know what I mean? She was like the ultimate. She was like the ultimate, thing that, I mean, both the MacGuffin and a, Deus Ex Machina all wrapped up in one. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whatever the story needs, it's her. She's doing it. You know what I mean?
And that's kind of the context of which she was created, I believe, like to use her in that manner, because she was like she was a focal point for all of the stuff that they couldn't, or maybe they didn't feel would be a good translation from the novels to a TV show. So like, instead of doing all of the stuff in the novels and then having like a kind of a drawn out, fairly boring, TV show that I guess they would feel would be very boring. I thought it would probably be pretty cool, but they clearly wanted something a little bit more action based, a little bit more drama based, and not something that would be more like, I don't know, Monk, or put whatever weird investigator story you want to put in there, but for whatever reason, they decided to use her as like the focal point to which they can get all of their characters from point A to point B to point C. So you end up in basically the same spot as you would end up in like the Blood of Elves book. But they used her in that capacity by tying Yennefer's loss of magic into her ability to restore her magic if she delivers Ciri to her. So that was what Yennefer's arc was all about. And with Fringilla, she wanted to win the favor of the Emperor. So, she did what she needed to do with... Actually, I don't know what she did. Hers was a little mysterious. Because I know that the elves, Francesca, she saw the... I forget the name of their elven messiah or whatever. But, she decided that the best thing to do with the elves was to ally with Nilfgaard and all that. So, The Deathless Mother kind of granted those wishes in order to push the story down a certain path. That's all it was. It was, we need the story for these characters to get pushed down a certain path.
Like, Fringilla could have come up with that shit on her own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And other than giving them a big third act climax with the actual witch herself. You know what I mean? The whole thing with Yennefer just didn't serve any purpose, really. You know what I mean?
The whole thing with Yennefer, what do you mean?
Well, just giving her magic, and it's like that was the thing that essentially causes the conflict at the end of the show, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With the actual witch herself. But Fringilla and the other elf storyline, whatever, Priscilla or whatever her name is, so many names are alike. Francesca, Fringilla, and Francesca. Both start with an F and an R, end up with an A sound. Their arcs, could have gone on without the Deathless Mother.
Yeah.
All their motivations were, and it would have been better, honestly. I mean, it didn't serve a lot of purpose.
So
you know what I mean?
I'm not for certain how. Okay, I know what it was. So the Deathless Mother gave Francesca an elven baby because that was their whole thing. A new elf hadn't been born, and who knows how many centuries, and et cetera, et cetera. So after she made her deal with the Deathless Mother, that's when she was impregnated. So that was what she got out of it.
A new elf hadn't been born at all. Because I was a little.
Yeah, they mentioned that.
They mentioned it, but they didn't. Was it not an elf? Period.
Because the elves aren't
not
fucking
a full-blooded elf. Because I got the sense that they said a full-blooded elf hasn't been born in centuries, and I got the sense that all the elves that were there
are race traders. They only like banging humans. They stopped banging other elves.
Humans at some point, and
there's that. There's that. But
and so
also,
it wasn't clear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was because I think the inference was that the contamination of humans. Because again, and this is going way back into the lore that isn't explained at all in the show. They kind of touch on it a little bit in this season, but the conjunction of spheres. The world that the continent takes place on was originally not populated by humans. It was originally a world of elves and I think dwarves. And when the conjunction of spears happened, that brought, you know, the monsters to the continents. It also brought humans to the continents. So humans are also invaders to this film.
We're just the worst.
Yeah, yeah, we are the worst. So that's where humans come from, and I guess the idea is that the infestation of humans and the proliferation of humans on this world tainted the elves' ability to flourish at the fullest extent of their magic, or whatever. So that's kind of what I got from their tales.
So it wasn't that like all the elves had a human somewhere in the wood pile. You know, it was actually that there was.
So you thought this was like a genealogical bloodline thing, like
well, I thought
the blood is diluted.
No, I thought that what they were saying is that there hadn't been a true full-blooded elf born in a really, really long time because, you know, just the amount of time going by, the elves had mixed with humans to some degree. You know, it's kind of like
they didn't mix with humans to that degree. They were all still very, very segregated. Like all the elves were getting the shit beat out of them.
Well, it's true, but it's kind of like American Indians. Like you say, like most people in America, if you do their genealogical thing, there's an American Indian in there somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's still plenty of you know.
We certainly treated them like shit.
Yeah, you know, but like it's. But it's not like they aren't like fucking. God, you just took us down a really dark area. Like it's not like, you know, Native Americans aren't still like fucking each other on wherever they're living at.
My point
so like
is
the elves would still, even if there is a proliferation of elven blood in human society, there is still so much ostracization of elves that keeps them secluded in their area that should their fucking junk work properly, they should be able to at least have one elven baby.
Well, see, I thought that was the point. See, I didn't. What I'm trying to say is that I didn't realize, I guess, that she had given her the baby. I thought that she already had the baby. You know what I mean? Because she's got an elven husband, and I thought the idea was it's just at this point, these two elves were able to. Where for whatever reason, they were able to have a more pure baby, and this baby, for the first time in millennia, could be considered a true elven baby. You know what I'm saying? Whereas previous elven babies were close, but maybe not all the way there, and you just had to, like, you know what I mean? I'm just going on what they said. You know, the way they worded it, it's like a pure elven. They said that, you know what I mean? Hasn't been born in over a millennia. Well, I thought they were trying to say by that is that all the elves that were currently alive had some smattering of human DNA in there. You know what I mean? That allowed them to be. Which, you know, it's funny because for a fantasy show, there's a fuck ton of talk about genes in the show. At one point, Triss is in there and they're talking about genomes or some shit. I'm like,
I mean that is Witcher though.
I mean, it is. At first, I was like, it's crazy they're talking about genes and shit in a fucking medieval lab. You know what I mean? A medieval, like, you know. But I was like, the mutagenic shit with the Witchers and all that stuff, that's right out of the source material.
Yeah.
So that's just something you have to buy. But my point is that so it wouldn't be out of character for that to be a part of the, you know what I mean, of the mythology. I just didn't know. And the way that they word it make it seem like that was what the deal was. So I didn't immediately go, oh, she gave her a baby. You know what I mean? I thought, oh, I guess she got pregnant by this dude and they're going to have the first elven baby. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I guess I just didn't think about it in that way because I guess if they were gonna, I don't know, it's kind of weird, like Phil Evangel never.
He's shooting blanks, so you know.
I mean, I never got the sense that he and Francesca were banging. Like it always seemed like a subservient. He always seemed to be in like a subservient role. Like he's.
Well, he did it first, and that's why I was a little confused. But when she all of a sudden shows up pregnant, he was certainly acting like he was the dad, and I was like
he was popping up his chest like, my boys can swim. My boys can swim.
I guess he got it done. He's like, finally, this elven magic is going again. I don't know what the deal was.
Yeah. I guess I could understand that. I could understand that confusion then. Like it was a little bit weird. Like, and again, this is just a function of them concocting this deathless brother story.
Point. And that's actually my general point. Is it doesn't. That could have easily just happened. You know what I mean? And that could have been her motivations had nothing to do with whether she was given the baby by a witch or not.
But again, I think that the whole purpose was they wanted to create their own Heart of Stone. They wanted to create a TV series specific entity of the level of Gontar O'Dim, and they wanted to have the Witcher go through a series of trials and tribulations that lead from point A to point B to point C, where, okay, Eskel fights Aleshin. That's normal, right? But, he has a hard time. He fights Aleshin for 6 hours. What the fuck? You're supposed to be an experienced Witcher. Why did it take you 6 hours? Even Vesemir commented about that. Like, it took you 6 hours to figure that out, whatever. And then, like, it turns out he's infected. And, like, you have to kill him.
I mean...
No, which is why I guess they were perplexed by it. And so they do the autopsy, and they show that actually, and that's pretty cool because Witchers do a lot of, they don't just kill monsters, like they also do a lot of studying of the monsters they kill to determine if weird things are going on with the evolution of monsters on the continent. And they discover that there is something very weird about, there's weird materials inside of the Leshen's hand that Eskel came back with. So Geralt's like trying to figure out where this came from. They realize that when Ciri touches it, she has a reaction, and it ties into like the monolith she destroyed. And Geralt, tries to use her magic abilities to follow the trail of power that is tugging at her to go out into the woods. And they see the Leshen there, and like they're about to fight the Leshen, and then surprise, like some other fucking crazy ass thing pops up.
Yeah,
and that thing was a monster, from that came from the, I guess it's just
from the portal.
This is like going through all of the episodes here, because I'm just trying to tie in like in a Witcher questline kind of manner what the start to finish was with the Deathless Mother. So he kills that creature, he has its head, they take it back to the Witcher Keep, and they're like, what the fuck is this? We've never seen anything like this before. So Geralt realizes he has to do further investigations on this monolith and all this sort of stuff. So Triss teleports him to Istrid. He shows Istrid the monster's head and starts talking to him about monoliths. Because Istrid, the mage from Artusa that is involved with Yennefer in Season 1, the last time you see him in Season 1, he's at like an archaeological site. He's studying this shit for Nilfgaard. So he's all about it. He's interested in figuring out what's going on. So him and Geralt have like a buddy road trip out to the monolith. And, they're walking around, they're investigating shit. He's trying to figure out, like, the source of where the creatures are coming from and what caused the monolith to destroy. I mean, he knows what it caused it, but Istrid is wanting to figure this out, and Geralt's, like, playing it close to the chest. And at that point... Oh, boy. I'm trying to remember what happened. Something was going on with Ciri. Something was going on with Ciri that was causing her to freak out. I can't remember what was happening, but at some point, she freaks out. A portal opens and a big fucking rock dragon, excuse me, a big rock dragon comes out and fucking flies off. So when Geralt goes back with Ciri, he finds, and this is like, if there was one thing that I have, okay. A couple of points of objections, major points of objections that I have with this series. And we can talk about the first point a little bit later when we get more into Geralt as a character. But my first point was that they made Geralt a very flat character. Like, he doesn't have any flaws this season. Like, he's very much like
he's really not in it that much.
He's in it pretty often. Like, he just doesn't... He doesn't offer any conflict. He doesn't offer any kind of character outside of just being the guy that always knows what's going on and knows how to solve things. And at a certain point, like, he's even chastising Vesemir. Like, he seems like he's Vesemir's mentor rather than Vesemir being his mentor. Like, in Vesemir, my other point of contention is, I don't know what the fuck is going on with Vesemir, but he was like... He was all ready to fucking shoot Ciri up with that fucking shit. Like, and I was like, oh my god, Vesemir, what the fuck are you doing? Like, he had her strapped down, he had this fucking violin, and like, and Geralt shows up then, and he like starts chastising Vesemir about that. And Vesemir is feeling down about it and all that sort of shit. So he takes Ciri and he's like, this isn't about you. We need to take her someplace to learn her magic. That's when they go to the temple, right? And that's when at the temple, and you're talking about a lot of character stories that come out of nowhere and are focused on a bit too much. You have that with Reince and the other sorceress girl he's traveling with. And Reince was the flame wizard, the one that Yennefer calls firefucker or whatever. And she says that like she's proud of that put down because she says it all the time. But he shows up there, Geralt fucks some shit up, but Ciri and Yennefer escape. Yennefer is kind of deceiving Ciri into delivering her to the Deathless Mother, but at the last minute, like she kind of has a change of heart of sorts. But not before Geralt shows up and starts fucking up soldiers that are trying to capture him. And then that's when they return to Kaer Morhen. The Deathless Mother escapes at some point because
she got her fill of pain.
Yeah, because the elven baby was killed. An assassin snuck in to Francesca's bedroom or something at night and killed her baby. And she got her own revenge in a pretty brutal way. But because her baby had been killed, she got her fill of pain and suffering and escaped the cabin. And as she escaped, she possessed Ciri. So at that last episode, it's kind of funny how the last episode of season 2 kind of mirrors the last episode of season 1, in that there's a lot of fever dreams going on, and it's a lot of that's right. So you get a lot of that, but it all kind of they try to tie all of that together at the end. As Geralt figures out, how to confront the Deathless Mother. It's this whole thing where all the Witchers are together, and all of those other Witchers who are all wearing red Star Trek shirts from the very beginning. They meet their inevitable demise, and Vesemir again is like going off book, and he's about to fucking kill Ciri and shit.
Yeah, dude, he stabbed her. He was like, at that point, I was kind of with Vesemir though.
Yeah, I know.
Let's just get this over with. I mean, come on, let's move on.
It was a crazy deviation. And that's the sad thing. Like, and like I said, there were a lot of things where it was like, okay, I see what they're doing. They're trying to make their own Gauntled Dim story, but it's nowhere near as clever as what was going on with Heart of Stone.
Yeah, they should have just played a Heart of Stone and done that. I mean, Gauntled Dim, that they didn't rely. It was obvious what was going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think about the way they introduced the Deathless Mother, and they talked about it. That's why I wrote you. I was like, they talked about it like everyone knows who she is.
Let me get another drink. Want one?
Sure.
You can keep talking though. I'll hear you.
And they talked about it like everyone knew who she was. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you read the books or were familiar with things, it's like, oh, the Deathless Mother, she's going to be here. I thought it was supposed to be the Crones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that would have at least made some kind of sense, I guess. I mean...
And she seems pretty Crone-like.
Yeah. And the Crones were way scarier, you know what I mean? And way creepier and weirder. The Crones were fucking awesome. You know what I mean? In that game, when I like faced out, when those show up, you're like, oh, this just got real. Like that kid's arm hanging from her belt. Oh, fuck. And then, of course, they look attractive in the things, but they're really not. But, like, everybody around there worships them. Yeah, fucking great. You know what I mean? It's like, it's already done for you guys. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yeah, the Crones, and again, I think this is just them trying to create their own identity separate of the games, Yeah,
but then they go whole hog on the games at the same time, It's like, I mean, I'll give the show this. Again, I'm complaining about it, and I was very frustrated by it in a lot of ways.
It seems like you don't like it that much.
Well, I was really frustrated by it. I mean, the thing is like, it wasn't terrible, and it was still The Witcher, and I like The Witcher. So it's kind of like the prequels, you know what I mean? It's like, the prequels. No. The prequels, I mean, maybe it wasn't as bad as the prequels, but it's like, yeah, those were terrible, but it's still Star Wars. You're still guys with lightsabers and fucking, spaceships and stuff, and I like all that stuff. So, I like the prequels. I just don't think they're very good movies.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's funny to see a show like hit the mark pretty much right off the bat, pretty good, and then just kind of fall off. You know what I mean? The next like 2 or 3 episodes are just kind of meandering, and it just kind of seems to meander all the way to the very end of the show. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, just kind of doing its thing, kind of meandering from group to group. You know what I mean? It kind of meanders in the same way that I felt the Dorne plots meandered in Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? It's like, what are we doing here? I mean, yeah, it ties into the plot and it has a purpose, but you're just kind of like, I don't know, was there any more compelling way to show this stuff? I mean, the thing is that, like, Yennefer is a cool character, but she spends the entire season without any magic, you know, being able to do anything cool. You know what I mean?
They were trying to... Yennefer in the books is real in and out. Like, she's like it's real touch and go with her. Most of the time she's not in it early on, but then she pops up at times. And I think what they were trying to do in this one was not just give her more presence, but also in the books, Geralt and Yennefer are like the ultimate off and on couple. Like, they are constantly together, then they hate each other, and together, and they hate each other, and it goes real back and forth like that. And I think that they were trying to create that complexity of a relationship between Geralt and Yennefer in a hyper compressed timeline with the same level of weight that you would have from a relationship that's off and on like that for so long. And so they had it where they had their reunion, and you know, there's all this there's love and passion and whatnot, and then there's the betrayal, and they end up, you know, they have a, well, not they, he dislikes her deeply from that, and then by the end of it all, you know, they're not on okay terms, but they're much better off than they were before. They're still just kind of like not on it. So her arc was like, we need to touch base with what's important to Yennefer, because you never, in season 1, it's like she's just power obsessed, right? And
but that to me rings truer with the Yennefer from the games. I felt the Yennefer from the games was more like the Yennefer in season 1, and this Yennefer is kind
not quite, because the
character.
Yennefer from the games has a lot more compassion towards Ciri and Geralt, and Yennefer in season 1. I mean, Ciri, she didn't know about Ciri in season 1, but she seemed like she was she had affection for Geralt, but she's real touch and go on whether or not she would actually stick around for him or not.
My point is, as far as orientation, but to me, it seemed like that Yennefer can become the Yennefer from season, you know,
and I still don't think that
she seems way harder in the games than she's appeared in season 2.
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility for that character to still develop that way. I mean, she did just get her magic back, and a major part of why Yennefer is so fucking hardcore is because she is an incredibly powerful sorceress. So we'll have to see how they develop her from here. But I think that, you know, humbling her by taking away her power and then making her go on this quest where she's betraying, you know, the person that's most important to her in her quest to fulfill her own satisfaction, and having this whole back and forth, and then, you know, making a selfless act at the end and all of that, that can put her in a position where she can become more hardcore while still being someone who is trustworthy and even motherly. Like, Yennefer is like a mother to Ciri.
Well, that's what I told Aaron. I was like, the thing is in the game, you get a lot of this in flashback, but Ciri is essentially the daughter of Yennefer and Geralt. You know what I mean? Like, Yennefer is as important to her in some ways as Geralt is. You know what I mean? And she plays a big role in her upbringing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't see how they get there the way the show is lined up. Like, that doesn't seem to be the, you know, I mean, maybe it's gonna happen off screen between seasons 2 and 3 or something, but it doesn't seem that, like, because Ciri doesn't seem that young. You know what I mean? She's way younger in the game.
Yeah, she's way younger in the books.
Shit happens.
She's way younger in the books.
And so I don't know. They could have done without the Deathless Mother all the way. Honestly.
I absolutely
that be in the show. There should have been some, you know. I mean, they should have taken some of the time with that. All the Fringilla stuff
in the Blood and Elves book, like the whole thing, the book, the main protagonist of that book was Reince.
Really?
Yes, it was all about, because Reince was fucking hardcore, and he was a mysterious dude. Like, you didn't really know much about him. All you knew is that, you know, Geralt, I forget what he's doing in that book. I think he is trying to find Ciri? I don't know what's going on with him in the book, but I remember he's traveling somewhere and he knows that someone's tailing him or someone's tracking him down. Someone's looking for him. Someone was hired to kill him. And he runs into his dudes on the streets, not Reitz himself, but he runs into Reitz's guys on the streets and like fucks him up. And then like he goes to, there's an episode where he talks to those two investigators or whatever in the shop, or Istrid does. He goes to those guys, you know, and spoiler alert, I'll mute.
Fucking bad guy.
No, antagonist.
Oh, okay.
Did I say protagonist? I'm sorry. I meant
very fucking confused.
I meant antagonist.
I was like,
I'm sorry.
So he's the good guy in the book.
Reitz is the main antagonist of Blood and Elves. So like that
makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, they could have definitely done. They could have definitely done away with the Deathless Mother stuff and just follow that track. Because like I said,
Reitz, wizard, he's got fire skills. Sounds good. You know what I mean? Let's start there.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Like it's kind of it. I need to reread that book. It wasn't my favorite. My favorite was Baptism of Fire. Because Baptism of Fire has like it, and they better get that fucking thing right. It has my favorite moments. And I don't know how they're going to get there. I'll talk about this in a second. But so like Reitz would have been cool to focus on a little bit more. His character was a little cheeseball in the show.
He was
cheeseball.
But he was like a metal singer. And honestly, he looks too much like Ymir. Those actors.
Yeah, I think the face thing though. That's probably enough.
Yeah, okay, but they look like I knew they weren't the same guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I was like, okay, really, these guys are very similar. Like to a person that isn't following super. They might think they were the same guy.
Yeah.
Granted, he got his face melted, which is way more melted than it should be if that would have happened. I mean, his face was fucked up.
That must have been like the hottest fucking flame in the world.
But yeah, I mean, it's like it wouldn't have been that hot. It doesn't matter.
It's magic, man. It's magic.
Fucking magic. He burned his face. The other chick, she was fucked up.
She was real fucked up.
But here's the thing I don't understand about them. They're wizards. Fucking Stragglebor doesn't have hands. He just snaps his fingers and he's got fucking hands. So why would they...
I don't even know how he snaps his fingers. He doesn't have hands.
He just wheels himself hands because he's a wizard. And this guy's a wizard. Why is he going around like Freddy Krueger? I'd be like, oh, gotta fix that. Boom, fix. Moving on. You know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, I get the sense that Reitz is a one-trick pony.
Oh, he
only knows fire.
He never had to learn how to fucking heal himself.
No. He's an off-the-books wizard there, so that's why he's a hired gun. But
is his sister a wizard? Because now she looks like a fucking ghoul.
Who was? Let me figure out who the fuck that was. She's a sorceress, I think, in league with the Brotherhood. But I can't remember who the fuck
who are they working
was.
for at the end? Did it show them?
It didn't show. I know who they're working for, but they didn't reveal that.
Is it someone that we know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
Is it someone cool or someone stupid like Full Test? Like some character that's been...
Full Test. Someone stupid
I mean, because like that's the thing. It's like, I kind of felt that way when they... A little bit when they revealed Ymir at the end. The thing is I had already spoiled that for Erin. I was like, well, Ciri's dad is the Emperor. She was like, really? I was like, the White Flame? Yeah, that's her dad. Spoiler alert, sorry. I didn't know that was going to be their big reveal for the end of the season. The problem is that like they didn't do a great job of laying a lot of groundwork so he was super recognizable. Like we saw him a couple of times in Ciri's flashbacks, which is probably one of the reasons why she had those flashbacks. It's just so we could be like, hey, here's your dad, have a good look. You know what I mean?
There's some Easter eggs too about that. Like in the last episode, when Ciri is about to leave her fever dream, and she's talking to her parents, and they're like, "Don't leave me," and she's like, "I have to go," and blah blah blah. And like their parents start to dust away. Yeah. Like you could see, like it's faded in the background. Like her mom dusts away, but Ymir doesn't. Like he's still there. So like that's a kind of your first clue. And it's kind of sucks that like the reveal is like 5 minutes after that.
I know. That's my point. Well, that's exactly my point. They should have built him up a little bit more. Like when we see him, we're like, holy shit! As it was, we're kind of like, oh, is that that's a guy from like Oh, that's Ciri's dad. Oh, Ciri's dad. His dad's the emperor. Oh, okay. I guess the show's over. We'll see it in a year. Yeah. I mean, it was just kind of like if they had started like in season 1, because wasn't her dad like the fucking? Wasn't her dad the hedgehog guy?
Yes, Dunny.
Was it the same actor in season 1 as it was in season 2? Like, did we get to see him in season 1?
You did.
The hedgehog.
Yeah, at the very end of that episode.
We should have saw him some more in season 1. You know what I mean?
Hold on a second. Let me see.
I mean, granted, they obviously didn't know they were going to make that the big reveal for season 2, because I guarantee you they didn't know that they were going to be moving this fast into the Witcher 3 storyline. And so they probably were like, fuck it, you know, they didn't know. But we should have saw him a lot in season 1, you know, in flashbacks and shit. We should have saw him continual in season 2 in early flashbacks. And then when he finally turned around, it would have been like, holy shit.
Okay, it looks like it was the same guy. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same guy from season 1. But I mean, what does it matter? You only saw his face for like a minute.
That's my point. At the end of that. A lot. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're writing it. They can make it whatever they want. You know, if they know they're going to have that big payoff when he turns around and that's a big reveal, you got to seed that shit early. You know what I mean? So that when we see him, we're like, holy fuck balls, you know? But it wasn't a holy fuck balls moment. It was like a, wait, like I guarantee you, if you didn't know, you know what I mean? That's why they had to have him say, my daughter, you know what I mean? Find my daughter, you know? Because they were expecting, through their own storycraft, for a good portion of the audience to be like, wait, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, they should. Well, I guess part of the problem is he just looks like such a normal dude.
Exactly.
Like, they should have cast somebody that looked more distinct,
totally
more distinct or something.
You know who he looks
or just
like?
make him up.
You know who he looks like?
He looks who?
Kip Winger. And actually, both him and Wright, Google Winger the band.
I know, Kip Winger?
Just Google Winger, because you might see Kip recently. You gotta Google, you gotta see him back in the day. You know what I mean? Click on that shot right there.
This one?
Yeah, no, this one, that one. That's the guy right there, dude. Yeah, he looks like Kip Winger to me.
That's kind of, I don't know, man. That guy. Hold on a second. Let me.
They're gonna have to blow him up.
Damn, I thought I had this guy.
I mean, he doesn't look exactly like him, but in the show with his hair, and actually him and Wright's both kind of look like Kip Winger. Well, they don't have the 5 o'clock shadow of a Kip Winger, but. Find another thing where he's giving you the blue steel in her Magnum. Right now he's smiling.
Let's see, like that?
Yeah, totally, dude. It totally looks like that guy. In the show with the hair, you know?
I can see that. I can see that.
Dude, looks just like him.
Yeah, he's got like the sharp, he's got a sharp chin.
Yeah.
He's got the steely eyes.
And look, I mean, is the last shot from The Witcher in there? You know what I mean? Like, of Emir? That's the shot? Yeah, I mean, he doesn't look exactly like it, but there's some stuff. I mean,
yeah, I can see it. I can see a little bit
especially
of it.
as also like that shot. Look at that. Look at that shot. He's smoldering there. I mean, the same angle. I mean, you know.
I can see it. Yeah, okay. I can see that. He does look like Kip Winger.
It's not the spitting image.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you liked what I said, what Justin said, if you like the content we're providing, if you had any kind of laughs at all, even if you hate us, if you hate my guts, if you want to stab me, if you want to say all sorts of horrible things to me, cool. Like the video, subscribe. You'll get fed all sorts of shit you'll probably hate. And if you like us, you'll get fed all sorts of shit you probably like. So please and thank you.